Hey, I think we're live. Hello and welcome to anybody who might be joining us, and welcome, Walter. I haven't seen you in a while. You were away in Dubai doing incredible things. Haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but I'm assuming it went absolutely fabulous.
It really was. It's amazing, amazing part of the world for sure. We'll
Yeah,
talk about it after. Yeah, absolutely. It's
a ton
amazing.
of money there. Eh?
Yeah,
One
definitely.
second, I just have to turn this up. I can only sort of.
Oops.
There we go. All right, we're back. Okay, so this week we're talking about this. Well, it's the very last step, final step of Think and Grow Rich. It's the 13th step towards riches, which is the sixth sense. It's
Mhm.
an excellent chapter. I think it's an excellent chapter. Um, yeah, there's different ways of saying the same things, I think, but again, this is a great chapter. I highly recommend people spending some time studying this one.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
he calls it the door to the temple of wisdom. And again, there is one more chapter after this, and it's was it something like six ghosts of fear or something like that? I forget. But yeah, how to with the six ghosts of fear. So I'll definitely be back next week with that. But again, this week is the final step towards riches and the sixth sense. So, got anything you want to say, Walter, before we I start kind of talking about it, reading it? And
Every chapter is really important. This one is kind of the culmination, I think, of all the other chapters, right? Because you have to basically learn to trust your instinct, trust your emotions, that inner emotion.
yeah,
Um, and that's not easy to do, actually. It's something that you have to get used um, to doing, actually, and you have to trust yourself, which is a habit, actually, you have to get into. It's super important. It's the key to
kind of gets
everything.
into that whole idea that the first thoughts that come to you are usually the right ones, and then the second thought is your subconscious mind trying to convince you that it's the wrong direction. That's
Yeah,
what this is basically, and it's the more you follow this, the more likely you're going to reach the goals that you want.
yeah,
I would imagine that you followed your instincts in some way. It took you to Dubai.
yeah, definitely. And it's that same old thing, right? The first time you say, "Hey, I'm going," it was actually to this conference for everybody called GITEX. It's the biggest sort of IT outsourcing kind of conference
Right.
in that whole region. And yeah, I actually got picked as part of the Ontario delegation. They picked 14 companies, and I was one of them. Well, Cross Concept was, and so I got to go, and it was an amazing thing. And but it's not cheap to go,
That's a
and
long way away.
you're one of 14 companies. You go, wow, am I worthy and all that? That's the first thing. The first thing that I thought of when I heard it is, this is exciting. This is fantastic. And then the ego comes in, and all your the inner voice pops in, and you're like, oh my God. And but definitely the first emotion that I felt was excitement.
Hmm.
And that's what I've learned to go with, right?
Well, you
Just
made the
like
right decision.
everybody, like anyone that's succeeded in anything, you have to learn to go with that gut feeling
There
before
you
that
go.
fear.
Just
Yeah,
go. Okay. Figure it out when you get there.
yeah, exactly.
It's safe to say you've been following the 13 steps that are put out in this particular book.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the book I wrote was conceive, believe, achieve, and then receive. I added on receive, but the first three were definitely Napoleon Hill's,
Yeah.
anything you can conceive and believe you can achieve. So,
You got a great program up on the Elevate Network. It's Grow 2.0, right?
so yeah, thought 2.0, and I'm actually I hadn't told you, but I found a good um, sort of title for the overall one. I'm calling it Purpose 2.0. So the
Oh,
next one will be Purpose 2.0. But
okay.
yeah.
Sounds exciting. Well, I
Yeah.
think people are going to be excited to actually follow along in that. So keep us
Mhm.
posted.
For
Okay,
sure.
so let's see what Napoleon Hill has to say here. Again, this is the door to the temple of wisdom, the 13th step towards riches. So he starts out with the 13th principle is known as the sixth sense, through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demand by the individual. It means that anything and everything you can ever imagine, it's already here. You just have to be open to receiving it. And that's where people fall short. So, this principle is the apex of philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles. Very true. Now, again, I think you just said this, Walter. This is definitely a book that you want to take your time and study it. There's some incredible information in. You may hear, there may be things in here a little bit dated, because it was written in 1937, right?
Yeah, in the
They
30s.
might find some things that, maybe been terminology might be slightly different. I know he refers to men rather than people, or,
Right.
persons or something along those lines. But that's unfortunately the way it was in 1937. But again, I think we both agree that this is something you should read and study and definitely get to know.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. I
so
think
yeah,
like any book, I don't know if there's any other book that gets quoted more than Think and Grow Rich. I mean,
yeah, probably not.
yeah. And if you look at any other, pretty much any other self-help, self-improvement program or whatever, takes the roots of some kind, like through the what's taught in these books, in those 13 chapters, without question. Bob Proctor too, like he definitely attributed he memorized it inside and out. So
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
something to it.
And that's that whole lineage. Like from Napoleon Hill, kind of went to who's the next guy? But then Earl Nightingale is, and who's after Napoleon Hill was I can't think of it.
The
Uh,
Dale Carnegie and Dale
yeah,
Carnegie, and he
yeah,
also,
yeah.
yeah.
And obviously Bob picked up off of Earl Nightingale, and
Mhm.
then there's many of us, including yourself, myself, that have picked up from Bob Proctor. So it's
Definitely.
it's definitely something you want to follow, and I would suggest following all of these people, including yourself and myself.
Yeah, for sure. You can learn something from
I
every
think
single
it's pretty
person.
safe to say that you and I know this. We understand this. So anybody who is looking to get some assistance, we certainly can help them with that. Would you agree with that, sir?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Wholeheartedly.
anyway, he goes on to say here, the sixth sense is that portion of your subconscious mind which has been referred to as the creative imagination. It has also been referred to as the receiving set. Very true. Through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind. The flashes are sometimes called hunches or inspirations. Now, there's a lot of, again, I was talking about terminology. A lot of people refer to that maybe to as your intuition rather than
Yep.
the sixth sense. And, if you're into the understanding chakras, it's, your third eye chakra. This again, that's the part that's allowing all this information, causes the imagination and things like that. So, the sixth sense defies description. It cannot be described to a person who has not mastered the other principles of this philosophy because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the sixth sense may be compared. And I found that part interesting because I started thinking about it. I think, well, huh? And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I do know the other 12. And then I started thinking back when I first read Think and Grow Rich, I didn't understand any of it.
No, me either. When I
When I
was
got
young.
to the sixth sense, I don't even know if I actually even finished reading it.
Right.
And it was again going through other ways of understanding this, like for me it was mostly Bob Proctor, got me to go back and study it again, and now I understand it. So it was interesting when I first read that part again, this that he says the sixth sense defines description that cannot be described to a person who has not mastered the other principles of the philosophy because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the sixth sense may be compared. That's again, it's absolutely true. You do need to understand all of this. You need to understand your subconscious mind. You need to understand all these things.
Yeah, 100%. The gut, like that's the other thing everybody says, right? Go with your gut. I
Yeah.
think that's another way to say it, right? And that's what I always called it when I was young. Same with as you. When I read it, I was just starting college. I was probably 19 or 20 or something.
That's,
Um,
that's
and I
not
was
good.
reading all of them. I was reading everything, including that, but it made sense on the surface, but it didn't really, especially this Sixth Sense. I mean, I was a formula guy. Do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And nothing about going with your gut back then, anyway. And the next time I read it was probably when I was about 40, and then it made perfect sense because you have some experience around it, got some stuff behind you, right?
I find 40, it seems like when people hit 40 is when they really start to mature.
Yeah,
Prior to that, it's kind of you're running around and around circles. Some people have success, a lot of success, but I think most people's success seems to come when they get into their 40s.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's one thing to read something, right? That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And it used to irritate the crap out of me when I was young, and people would tell me that, oh, you'll understand when you have a kid. Oh, you'll understand when you have a wife or a long term. you'll understand. And I'm like, what? I understand. I totally. But no, you need to experience things to fully appreciate them and get their meaning. You can try and explain it, but it's almost like trying to explain an emotion.
Yeah,
You can't put emotion into words. You can try, but you need the emotion is something you feel, and it's the same sort of thing.
absolutely. So he goes on to say here, understanding of the sixth sense comes only by meditation through the mind development from within. The sixth sense probably is the medium of contact between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. And for this reason, it is a mixture of both the mental and the spiritual. It is believed to be the point at which the mind of man can contact the universal mind. Absolutely. It's where all the ideas come from. Like, somebody have an idea, a dream or something in their mind, but the how comes from the universe, like some way, somehow. It can come through people, it can come from anywhere and everywhere, really, basically. But the answers are coming from the universe. And until you really truly understand that you need to be open to that, you're not going to receive it. And we go
No.
through life basically living day by day, doing the exact same thing over and over and over again.
Yep.
You live not too far from Toronto. All you gotta do is drive down the 401 highway,
Mhm.
during rush hour and think like, why do people keep doing this?
I know.
But yet
Yep.
they do, and they're not using any of these gifts. They're not using these 13 steps towards riches
Yeah.
to build something new. And again, like, it doesn't mean you have to quit your job. It just means that you could possibly create something if you want to, but you got to be open to receiving it. And that's what I think what we're talking about in this case.
Yeah.
Is
And
something you want to say?
yeah, I mean, I think it all starts with, I mean, conceiving is step one, of course. You have to come up with something in order to want to achieve it. So that's step one. But the time that something becomes real is when you believe it. And I think everything is with the belief, and that's the hardest. It's not hard when you get used to it, but the first thing to grasp, in experience is truly believing. The belief isn't a want, isn't a wish. Um, Actually, through your program, right, the power principles, it makes a great point. A belief is a belief. It means it's in you. It's there. It's like the same as you're going to breathe. It's you're confident that it's there. It's a wish, if it's a want, if it's anything like that, it automatically has it built in that it is not there. It's a future thing. A wish is something you wish you had. A want is something you don't have. And so even wishing and wanting puts the belief that it's not yours, it's not there, right? A belief is just a being. It is just a part of you. It's there. That's the biggest thing that I had to overcome or learn or whatever, or learn to understand was that a belief is just it's in you. It's there. As soon as you have that, the thing is manifest because now it's just a matter of time. And then believing that gut instinct just becomes more natural. But everything is with the belief. If you don't believe you're going to achieve it, then nothing else matters.
That's going to come from studying books like this, because again, that gut feeling you're talking about is the universe telling you what direction to go. Like
And
but you have
believing
to
in the
act on
process, but believing in that
it.
process,
You have to
believing that it will come. Yeah,
That's
for
the thing,
sure.
is you're not going to act on it. You're not going to achieve what it is that you're looking for if you don't believe that that's what's happening. If you don't understand what's happening, like, again, if you understand that we live in an infinite, we basically it's infinite intelligence. We live in a universe that everything and anything we can ever imagine already exists. Well, that takes faith. That takes belief. And that's where the conceive, believe, achieve that you're talking about comes from. It's you can conceive it, you can think, okay, I'd like to have this. And you don't have to know how. You just have to believe that you're going to be led to that direction. And that's where all these little gut feelings and your intuition or whatever it is that you want to refer to it is going to show up. And again, it goes back to having faith. You have to have faith, or you're not going to act on it. And then even we've talked about many times, your subconscious mind, that conditioning is going to try to talk you out of it
It will
because it's
most
never done it
definitely,
before, right?
especially in the beginning. Especially in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where that belief and that understanding of all this has to come from. You got to have faith that it's all going to work out. And then again, I think the more you read these kind of things, the more you apply it in your life, the easier it gets. But I don't, I would imagine you'd agree with me that, we don't want people to think it's easy right off the bat, because it's not.
Yeah.
I've been studying this material for, I don't know, 35 years. Uh, I'm in a much better place today than I was 35 years ago.
Hmm.
But it hasn't been easy. What I give myself credit for is that I kept going. I
Yes.
had that if I just kept going, I'd figure it out.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's just like, and again, that ego will feed us all the time. It's just like anything. Listen, nobody knows how to ride a bike until you practice, 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 and then you learn that, ride a bike. How do you get good at anything? Whenever you start anything, you're not that good at it. It takes repetition, practice, dedication, and this is no different. And some people are gonna, and I get it. When you start down this process, you say, "Oh, it's easy to say believe." I just don't. I don't believe it. You say, "I want a, a house on the beach in Hawaii," and automatically I'm going, "What do you cry? I can't get a beach in the house. I don't have enough money." All those things start popping in. Yes, that's true in the beginning. That's your ego. Expect it. It's there to keep you safe. It's to throw up all those things. But your ego is not you. So that's the important thing to remember, anyone listening. Your ego is information. It's a system to keep us safe. It is not you. We decide where we go. You can decide to take that information and have it restrict us, which is the default almost, if when you're not sort of focusing on the belief. But when you do it enough times, when you focus on your belief, when you're consciously kind of monitoring those thoughts and deciding, even though I hear that fear, I acknowledge it, fine, but I'm still going to move forward. And you do that enough, it becomes a habit. And then a belief is a habit. You have to consciously focus, do your affirmations every day,
yeah,
consciously focus on those things that you want to achieve on a regular basis. And then it becomes a habit,
absolutely. Yeah.
positive habit.
I posted something earlier today. I can't remember exactly what I posted, but it was about something along the same lines of, the conceive, believe, achieve kind of an idea. And I
Right,
think I said something along the lines of the universe will guide you. But I was also saying that you have to act on that guidance.
right.
Somebody actually messed like to comment on it. They seemed like they were upset with the fact. They said, no, that's not true. You don't have to do the work. The universe is going to show you the how, and everything will manifest just as you want. And I'm
Right.
thinking, well, he's not wrong, but you have to act to receive, though. Like you have to do something to
Yes.
actually receive it. It's the action that causes the reaction. That reaction is the result you're looking for. And
Right.
that's the part that, this person wanted to go on and on. I obviously didn't want to bother talking about it, but again, that's not quite, he wasn't necessarily wrong, but he was leaving out the big part about the acting on it. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do. Like, even when The Secret came out, I think we've talked about this before with, a lot of people started creating vision boards,
Hmm.
which is great. You're going to start bringing into your world everything necessary to make what's on your vision board come true.
Hmm.
But if you don't change your behavior and you don't really truly down deep inside believe it's going to happen, well, it isn't. A vision board is not like buying a lottery ticket. And then
Right.
I think that's what people sometimes look at it as. So,
Yeah. It helps feed the belief part. So the conceive, believe, achieve, and then I added receive, and I'll explain that. But it helps with the belief, right? The belief is something, every day you're focusing on it and building up not memories, but future memories, like those things that are there that, that beach house that you don't have yet, hasn't manifested yet. You can place that vision in your own memory. Memory, it's not something that's happened, but it will. And it's almost like you're placing it in the future, because memories are really powerful, right? Like you can feel the emotion of that memory. You can smell things, hear things. You
yeah,
can plant those seeds in your own mind, right? And then your mind doesn't know any different if it's a memory, if it's a future memory, if it was planted. It doesn't know. It doesn't matter. But if you do it enough, it gets strong. Just like the old memory is ingrained. You can ingrain a new not memory, but a new practice or habit or belief in yourself. Once it's a belief, it's there. So that builds the belief, but you still need the action. And nothing
exactly.
happens without action,
You got to
right?
move.
Yeah. I
I think what
told you
you're
the
talking
whole.
about there is, all this stuff gets implanted into our subconscious mind. Obviously, in the beginning, your subconscious wants to reject it because it's not something it's familiar with. But your subconscious mind doesn't have the ability to accept or reject. It
No,
just tries to cause you to reject
it's
it. So
exactly right.
anything giving it with constant repetition is going to get impressed upon your subconscious and becomes fixed. That's
That's
where
right.
the memories are. You're talking about future memories. Well, if you believe that that beach house is going to be yours very, very soon, and you believe it in your heart, which is your subconscious mind, you're going to have it. But again, you
Yep.
got to move towards it. You're going to have to act in some manner. You're going to have to fly to Dubai and see if you can find some business so that you can buy the beach house, right? That's the way it
It's
works.
very true, and we talked about that before. Is
If you already have a beach house, I would like to know why I haven't been invited.
that's right. It's a secret. You can bring.
It's a secret, guys.
uh, no, it's very true. The action, and some people saying, "Well, how can you act when you don't know?" I don't know how to get the beach house. What do you mean act? Act just means use your gut, keep open, because as soon as you believe it, your mind now becomes your, instead of being this ego that's holding you back, it now opens itself up for ideas and perceptions. So things that you would have may have seen a million times that wouldn't register because you didn't even think of that it meant anything. Now that you, let's as an example, that beach house, now you're open to it. Now suddenly you'd see an ad for, Hawaiian getaways or whatever, and you're gonna go, oh, maybe I can find out how much they cost. Okay, great. Well, so step one doesn't mean, you know, when am I gonna buy it? Step one is, how am I gonna research? Okay, great. So now that's step one. Let's go research. After you do research, that'll open up more things and you take the next step. And that's all it takes, is you just need to do the next one or two
What's
steps that are
next?
feasible to you to take you one step closer. That's all it is, one step closer each time.
Yeah.
But you still
And
need to
it's,
act.
and you go back again to what Napoleon Hill's saying about, your sixth sense,
Yeah.
that hunch, your intuition is going to keep telling you, do this next.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't have faith in your heart, you're probably not going to do it. Right?
Yes.
Like he
Very
goes on
true.
to say here too, that he said, through the aid of the sixth sense, you will be warned of impending dangers in time to avoid them, which that can happen as well. We be going down the wrong path, and
Yeah.
your intuition will pick up on the fact that you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
That's probably a lot to do with thinking you already know how to do something that you've
Yeah.
never done before, or you're taking advice from somebody who has never done it before, and that happens. So again, he says, through the aid of sixth sense, you will be warned of impending dangers in time to avoid them, and notified of opportunities in time to embrace them. Right? And then he goes on to say, there comes to your aid, or what's that? There comes to your aid and to do your bidding with, sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. Oh,
Put
with
your
the,
glasses on, Lee. You
I
do
can
this
actually
every
see it.
time.
I just, it's blurred for some reason.
Oh,
Only these words, not the whole thing. As Eric would say, hooked on phonics. I know.
exactly.
With the development of the sixth sense, a guardian angel who will open to you at all times the door to the temple of wisdom. Right.
Yeah.
That's again, that goes back into the having of faith. And I'm pretty confident. I don't know about guardian angels. I don't really, I don't, that's not an area that I've spent a lot of time studying about the whole idea of that kind of thing. I know a lot of people do. And it's interesting. It's just not, again, I'm more of a Think and Grow Rich, Bob Proctor kind of a person, and that's not what I was taught. But
Right.
I'm all for it. In fact, I think I might find myself kind of studying it a little more because I'd like to learn a little more about it. Because I do think that we're being guided, but we're also conditioned not to listen, and that's the problem. So when he's talking about your guardian angel is going to show you the way, I actually believe that.
Yeah,
Could-
funny
but
thing, we talk about the balance in your life, and one of the things is spiritual, and everybody thinks, oh, it's religion, and it's not necessarily. Maybe for certain people, that could be the first, delve into the whole spiritual aspect, but it's not necessarily the same thing. In fact, it's not. Religion is one group's recording of the belief of what the universe is. Spirituality is our own personal belief of what spirituality is. So you can take things from religion, but everyone will have their own
yeah,
spiritual view. The way I got into it is I've always been a math guy. I came through, I got through spirituality, believe it or not, through Einstein. Just reading all of his work, he was incredibly
Mhm.
deep and philosophical, like
Yeah,
unbelievably, actually.
brilliant. Yeah.
Most of my quotes in my book come from Einstein. And anyway, basically, he says, if you get your vibration at a certain level to what you are trying to attain, it will be attracted to you. He said, that's not philosophy. That's physics. That's what he
Yeah.
said. Anyway, but I got into the spirituality, not religion, through this thing called an angel board, and everybody knows Ouija, right?
Yeah.
And one of my cousins actually, this I was probably early 20s or something. Um, and I had a really bad experience with Ouija. Like, we were all drunk, young and drunk, and some girl got out the Ouija board, and all these, ghosts and whatever were coming through. It was horrible, horrible, negative feeling throughout that whole thing. But what I've learned through talking with my cousins is the same kind of thing. It's all kind of, let's say, spirit energy or energy, intelligent energy, let's just say. There's positive energy, there's negative energy. And it's all based on our same thing, belief, what your intent is. If your intent when you're drunk to talk to evil spirits and ghosts, well, that's exactly what comes to you when your intent is to talk to those guardian angels or those sort of let's say service related energies. That's what comes through. And I sat there with that, it was just a cup and spelled out letters or whatever. We sat there for hours. I can't even tell you. I think we started around 8. We didn't finish till like 5 in the morning, and it literally felt like 2 hours went by. And I was just asking every question I possibly could, writing down the answers really slow and kind of, tedious or whatever, but we got it through. Like I wrote down all the ideas of the um, 5 balance points, 5 areas of your life you should focus on. All came from that originally.
Wow.
And the other thing I learned was how to receive that instinct. Okay, because you're really talking. It's an intangible thing. Everybody feels that gut instinct or that sixth sense in their own way. Like I felt it through like shivers. Like when you talk about ghost stories, you feel the little shivers, kind of like that, but really focused more sort of in the top of my head, not down the back of my spine. But other people I've heard feel it different ways, and some feel it more in an emotional way. Some hear things, some see things even.
Yeah.
But however you receive that, it's almost like a pat in the back. I found like if you're going in the right direction, or you said the same thing when you're, and I have felt the same thing when you're talking to somebody and it's something they needed to hear or they were ready to hear or whatever, you feel that sense, and that's that sixth sense. I think you can use
Yeah.
that to guide that. It's
No,
in.
you're on the right path. You're working with somebody like, both of us have people that we work with on this type of thing. And I know there's many times when something will come to me that I say and I think about afterwards. I don't even know where that came from.
Where'd that come from? Yeah.
And then I get chills, like the hair on my arms will start to
Yeah.
stand up. I'm thinking, okay, I tapped into something and it wasn't meant for me. It was meant for whoever I'm talking to. Right.
That's right.
It's fascinating stuff. And that's why like I am open to really kind of exploring anything. I think we've on the Elevate Network, we've got some more programs coming that are a little bit more spiritual than what's already on there. And I'm kind of excited about that. We've got some people that are building some programs right now that I think are going to be pretty exciting. And again, there are areas that I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it exciting for me. I want to get excited. Like even numerology, I never even thought about numerology before. And I still really have no idea about numerology.
Mhm.
I don't even know if I actually buy into it at all, but I kept seeing the number 11
Yeah.
all the time. And I still all the time, like I swear every single day, I'll look at the clock and it's something 11. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's 11:11. But I
Right.
bet you I've gone through the entire clock from like
Right.
1:11 to 12:11 and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up, and they're angel numbers trying to guide you in a certain way. So
Yeah.
the great thing about what I've been seeing is it's basically keeps telling me I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
if you
the
said I
thing
was on
that
the bad path, I'd probably say I hate numerology, right? But
no, I mean, if you think about it, it's all tied together. And that's what I learned. I forgot to even mention that. So what I learned was everything is based on your intent, your belief, right?
Mhm.
So if you're on if you're trying to consciously manifest something and you're in a enthusiastic, you're in a loving energy, right? You're going to attract through law of attraction those types of energies. And there's things happening around us, like what our the spectrum that we can actually see as far as energy goes is very, 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 very small. It's maybe 0.1% of all of the energy that's flowing around us, microwaves, x-rays, gamma rays, infrared, ultraviolet, all of those we can't see, I guess, because that would drive us nuts. We can see that, the light spectrum, right? But there's other energies that may be there that we cannot sense yet or see. You can maybe sense them if you're in tune with it, but you can't see them. Well, it's a complex universe, and if you try and go into a certain direction, again, what I've learned through that whole angel board thing and speaking with people is that you'll attract those types of energies. And it's not that they're good or bad or indifferent or whatever, but those coincidences, I don't know if you ever notice things, but when things just fall into place, almost when you're in that positive thing, and you could be fighting before you were fighting and fighting because it was like tripping over yourself and whatever. Suddenly you believe in that path, and then everything just kind of flows into place. When you meet somebody randomly, and all those sort of coincidences, there are these sort of guiding energies that are working together with the other guiding energies to get people together. And when you're in a negative state, you're going to draw negative energy. The same way there's energies to help guide us, there's energies to help to kind of reinforce that energy that we are manifesting. Like, it's not, if you're thinking negatively, you're going to bring negative energies. You think positive, you're going to think positive energies. And it's not that, again, that's good or bad. They're just serving us. The negative beings or whatever are serving our negative thoughts and intentions. The positive beings are our positive intentions. And you can change just by your intent, those forces that are going to come your way. And you don't even have to understand any of that. Like, it's interesting to feel it and understand. But as long as you stick to the path, just be positive, stick to your positive intents. That's all we really need to know. How it happens in the background, it's interesting. I mean, it is super interesting when you dive into it, but you don't need to know all of that
No, you don't.
to benefit from it.
One thing I really liked about what he talks about kind of next, I'll start reading some of it, but he's talking about his imaginary council meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And we're kind of sort of doing a little bit of that with our Elevate Roundtable on Wednesdays. If anybody wants to join us, it's a closed group, so feel free to come and join us. It's not live. Nobody knows you're on the group except whoever's there. So.
Right.
Anyways, he goes on to say, my experience has taught me that the next best thing to being truly great is to emulate the great by feeling and action. See, the action again, something that, that's an important part. And again, to emulate the great by feeling it in action as nearly as possible. But he goes on to say, long before I had ever written a line of publication or endeavored to deliver a speech in public, I followed the habit of reshaping my own character by trying to imitate the 9 men whose lives and life work had been most impressive to me. The 9 men were Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Burbank, Napoleon, Ford, and Carnegie. Every night over a long period of years, I had an imaginary council meeting with this group, whom I called my invisible counselors. So I guess basically what he's done is he's pretending or imagining as though he's having a conversation with these people. So he goes on to say, the procedure was this. Just before going to sleep at night, I would shut my eyes and see in my imagination this group of men seated with me around the council table. Here I had not only an opportunity to sit among those who I consider to be great, but I actually dominated the group by serving as the chairman. When you think about that group, you got Edison and Darwin and Lincoln and Ford and Carnegie. I left out Napoleon. I don't quite understand that one, but I do understand. I should say.
I do understand. Yeah, no, yeah. We can talk about
that. Not somebody you may want to be exactly like, but anyways. So he was the chairperson of this council, and he would call upon these people for their expertise and his imagination, and that works. I know it does. Now, I had a very definite purpose in indulging my imagination through these nightly meetings. My purpose was to rebuild my own character so it would represent a composite of the characters of my imaginary counselors. Realizing as I did early in life that I had to overcome the handicap of birth in an environment of ignorance and superstition. I deliberately assigned myself the task of voluntary rebirth through the method here described. And he's talking about, again, building character through autosuggestion, which is the third step in the towards the riches. So I'll just read a little bit more here. Being an earnest student of psychology, I knew, of course, that all men have become what they are because of their dominant thoughts and desires. I knew that every deeply seated desire has the effect of causing one to seek outward expression through which that desire may be transformed into reality, transmuted into reality. I knew that self-suggestion is a powerful factor in building character. That is, in fact, the sole principle through which character is built. Very good, man. Now, with this knowledge of the principles of mind operation, I was fairly well armed with the equipment needed in rebuilding my character. In these imaginary council meetings, I called upon my cabinet members for the knowledge I wished each to contribute, addressing myself to each member in audible words as follows. Now, he goes on a bunch. I'll just read a couple. Emerson's the first one he's talking about. He says, Mr. Emerson, I desire to acquire from you the marvelous understanding of nature which distinguished your life. I ask that you make and impress my subconscious mind of whatever qualities you possess, which enabled you to understand and adapt yourself to this laws of nature. I ask that you assist me in reaching and drawing upon whatever sources of knowledge are available to this end. So, even if you think about, like, he's imagining Emerson, he's imagining what Emerson is, but it's actually the universe that's answering the questions. It's the universe is giving him this information. And it could be, the energy from Emerson. It can be. It's, I don't think it ever dies.
Nope.
But, again, it's his imagination, and he has faith and belief in his heart that he's going to get the answers.
Yep.
And he does, right? Now, one thing that I mentioned Napoleon. So I just thought I'm going to read all of them, but I'll just read the one from Napoleon here.
Right.
Says Napoleon, I desire to acquire from you my emulation, the marvelous ability you possess to inspire men and arouse them to a greater and more determined spirit of action. Also to acquire the spirit of enduring faith, which enables you to turn defeat into victory and to surmount staggering obstacles. Empire of fate, king of chance, man of destiny, I salute you. Again, you can say that Napoleon wasn't maybe such a great person, but a brilliant strategist.
The most brilliant, and like Napoleon Hill said, no one could fire up his team more than Napoleon. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. And it doesn't mean you have to believe in the person. That's a great point. You can have mentors in different areas of your life. You don't have to agree with everything in that person's life, but that area that you want to emulate or you admire, that's the area. Like for relationships, you want like for me, it's my uncle and my aunt, but they've been together, 55 years or something. They say I still see him hugging my aunt and giving him little kisses and stuff. And so you ask, how do you keep that flame alive for so long? They're in their 80s or whatever. Anyway, so you can learn from different people. So for relationships, it could be that. Doesn't mean I want to emulate every single part of necessarily my uncle's life, but for definitely there, that's that. And so for Napoleon, it was the way that he could stir up his team. You could learn from that, right? And different people, for learning how to, if you want to get into biking, somebody that's just an amazing biker or whatever, you can take different people. And that was the great thing that I got from that. He's basically creating a mastermind in his own imagination and pulling from the best features and the things that he wants to emulate from all of the different people. It's a pretty amazing thing. At the end of the day, we're all
trying that. I've never done that. I think I'm going to try that.
It's amazing.
I need to think of who I want to be in my sleep.
And there was, I don't know if you ever read the Conversations with God book, Neil Donald Walsh, but that's a really great series. And they also call it angel writing, or that was another form that I heard. But basically, I told you about the angel board with the little, it's very, very cumbersome. You can just ask your question, just meditate for a few minutes, get into a positive space, ask a question, and then hold the pen, and then wait, and just ask what you'd want guidance on, and you'll just start writing. And the more you write, the more you write. And you'd be amazed after 5, 10 minutes what you actually write. You just keep your eyes closed. I know it gets all crazy and everything. It'll go off in an angle or whatever, but the things that you end up writing and the inspiration you get, you get amazed. It really is. It's almost like a form of meditation. But if you haven't tried it, try it. It's actually really, really amazing. It really is.
Good advice.
Yeah.
So he says here, I'm just going by what I got highlighted here. So my method of addressing the members of the imaginary cabinet would vary according to the traits of character in which I was, for the moment, most interested in acquiring. I study the records of their lives and painstaking care. After some months of this nightly procedure, I was astonished by the discovery that these imaginary figures became apparently real.
Hmm.
It's amazing what your mind can do, right? It's
Your subconscious doesn't know the difference, right?
There's a part here he talks about Edison. He says one evening Edison arrived ahead of all the others in his imaginary accounts, right? He walked over and seated himself at my left, where Emerson was accustomed to sit, and said, "You are destined to witness the discovery of the secret of life. When the time comes, you will observe that this consists of great swarms of energy or entities, each as intelligent as human beings think themselves to be. These units of life group together like hives of bees and remain together until they disintegrate through lack of harmony." Interesting stuff,
Yeah.
right? And what else you say here? These meetings became so realistic that I became fearful of these consequences and discontinued them for several months. The experiences were so uncanny, I was afraid if I continued them, I would lose sight of the fact that the meeting were purely experiences of my imagination.
That was his ego. He was the
His,
victim
his,
of
ego,
ego right there.
his ego was kicking in.
Yeah.
What else we got in here? We got time, lots of time.
Yeah.
I got so much stuff highlighted, notes all over the place. So you could read the whole chapter, but we'd be here for a lot longer. Is it somewhere?
Did you find because you've done a few masterminds, I found that the same thing. Like I've probably had let's say four. The first one was yours actually, Lee, like years ago when we first
Right.
met. That got
When
me
I first
interested.
moved to the area, then, right?
Yeah, when you lived in Whitby there, yeah. And then it disbanded, which is pretty normal. Like um, you kind of gel with the people, and for whatever reason it dissipates. Then I got into another one, so we've had like four, yeah, four, and each one was amazing for its time. It's kind of like you get from it, everybody gets from it what they're gonna get, then you move on to the next, and then whole new experiences, whole new levels of experience and growth. The last one I had before the one we're doing, I kind of see the Wednesdays as kind of a mastermind basically,
Yeah.
but before that one, I was with the same group for about 4 years or so, and it was actually through that experience that I got to write up the book because we were throwing ideas around and what about this and that, and I'd write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing. You get from it exactly when you meet people exactly when you should. You get from each other exactly what you should at that time,
Mhm.
and then you move on and to the next. It's that's the other thing that I think is important to understand is we are perfect exactly the way we are. Things happen exactly when they should. Nothing in this universe happens haphazardly or by accident or
Mhm.
including our lives. The only time we question it because it's our minds kicking in and we
Yeah.
trip over ourselves. But the reality is you get exactly what you focus your energies on. Exactly where you're at. This is like you said, don't blame anyone else for where you're at except yourself, right? You're the culmination of every thought, belief, and action that you've had up to this point in life, right? It's
Yeah.
the perfect culmination. So just believe in that. So as soon as you get into the habit of being positive and moving forward with your ambitions, um, just have faith in the process. Things will just come together, whether it's angels or whatever, whatever. But the universe makes things happen perfectly at just the right time. Just have faith in that.
Yeah,
That's
masterminds are fantastic. I don't remember the story completely. I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but anyways, I remember Bob Proctor talking about mastermind groups that he was part of.
yeah.
And you know, one of the groups he was part of had Mark Victor Hansen in it and Jack Canfield.
Oh wow.
And
Jack
and
Canfield.
Chicken Soup for the Soul series came
Yeah.
from that mastermind.
Oh really?
Yeah, you think about that's one of the, it maybe is the most successful series of books in history.
Yeah.
There's a Chicken Soup for the Soul for pretty much anything you think of anymore, but massive success,
Yeah.
which came from a mastermind idea.
That's
They're
amazing.
sitting around talking.
And talk about that. He was the one that wrote $1 million check to himself and stuck it to the ceiling so that he woke up every morning and looked at it. And,
That's right. And everything, is all based on the same philosophies you're going to find in this book. They can grow rich, right?
yeah,
It's all here, right?
yeah, for sure.
So he goes on, let's see here. My original purpose in conducting council meetings with imaginary beings was solely that of impressing my own subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion with certain characteristics which I desire to acquire. In more recent years, my experimentation has taken on an entirely different trend. I now go to my imaginary counselors with every difficult problem which confronts me and my clients. The results are often astonishing, although I do not depend entirely on this form of counsel. He says, you, of course, have recognized that this chapter covers a subject with which a majority of people are not familiar. The sixth sense is a subject that will be of great interest and benefit to the person whose aim is to accumulate vast wealth or anything else, I think. But it need not claim the attention of those whose desires are more modest. Henry Ford undoubtedly understands and makes practical use of the sixth sense. His vast business and financial operations make it necessary for him to understand and use this principle. The late Thomas Edison understood and used the sixth sense in connection with the development of inventions, especially those involving basic patents, in connection with which he had no human experience and no accumulated knowledge to guide him, as was the case while he was working on the talking machine and the moving pictures machine. That's funny, talking machine. Think of where we've come.
It's amazing.
Nearly all great leaders, such as Napoleon, Bismarck, Joan of Arc, Christ, Buddha, Confucius, and Muhammad, understood and probably made use of the sixth sense almost continuously. See, that would agree with that completely. The major portion of their greatness consisted of their knowledge of this principle. The sixth sense is not something that one can take off and put on a will. The ability to use the great power comes slowly through the application of the other principles outlined in this book. Seldom does an individual come into workable knowledge of the sixth sense before the age of 40. Oh, look at that. I didn't even realize that was in here. And we were talking about that. Maybe that's where I got it from, I guess. More often, the knowledge is not available until one is well past 50. And this, for the reason that the spiritual forces within which, for the reason that the spiritual forces with which the sixth sense is so closely related do not mature and become unusable, except through years of meditation, self-examination, and serious thought. The last part here, just read. No matter who you are or what may have been your purpose in reading this book, you can profit by it without understanding the principles described in this chapter. This is especially true if your major purpose is that of accumulation of money or other material things. Profit value. Yeah, you have to understand this, right? And again, like if you're going to create something brand new that you've never done before, you have to understand this. Like, because again, like he was talking about Edison and the patents and things like that. Like, none of this would ever have happened had he not been open to receiving from this universe. Again, call it sixth sense, intuition, call it whatever you want, hunch, right? It doesn't matter. But the reality is that I don't believe that anyone has ever been incredibly successful without understanding it and using it. Like
Yeah.
it happens all the time. Like,
Expecting it, like
right.
having just expecting that it will hit you. But I have the most, my whole thing has been an IT, computer science, all of that since I was small. I don't know why I just gravitate to it. It comes so very naturally to me. But whenever and we have a solution, project management solution. So anytime we need to come up with something new, the shower is my thing. Every time I go in there, it's almost like I'm meditating or something, and I'll see the building blocks in my head, and then I get excited because I don't know why I get into that cycle, but I do, and then I'll kind of piece it all out in my freaking head, piece by piece, and everyone can kind of dig into that. Everyone's special or really good in certain areas,
Mhm.
and when you're brainstorming with yourself and you're in a positive state, and that's another important thing with masterminds is in a positive environment, all helping each other with the intent of helping each other. You get in that positive state and it's contagious. It's like it builds. Like you can be positive and have a certain amount of energy, but it almost quadruples when two people get together. And then, it's like exponential. The more people you get in, the bigger that energy is, and the bigger the ideas you tend to get as well, right? Um, but yeah, and so with me though, if I have to, I'll just put that out. I'll meditate. I'll say, how am I gonna solve this? And it just kind of falls into place into the shower for some reason. I heard a lot of people get inspiration in the shower,
Yeah.
musicians,
Showers. Some people sit in the bath, right?
or bath, right, right. I guess because you're relaxed, I suppose. I have
So
no
if we
idea.
see you extra clean, it's because you've been meditating.
It's right. Hey man, my wife says, "What are you doing in there for 40 minutes?" Like I don't even realize how long I've been in there. I don't even know if I've washed my hair yet or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah, it's not hard to forget sometimes too. I've
yeah,
done that myself. I start thinking about something and I'm thinking, did I wash my hair?
yeah, it's
So I just
supposed
wash it again, right? So it's,
to.
but
Exactly.
again, like you've had a lot of success. You've built a business. You just came back from an exciting trip to Dubai. It
Yeah,
works, right? So
for sure.
everything that we're trying to get people to understand here, I can say from my personal experience. Walter's obviously said from his personal experience that everything that's in this book works.
Yeah,
So take the time and study it and understand that the only thing that's holding you back is you. It's your
yeah,
conditioning. It's how you've been conditioned to see the world. The reality that you're living is really someone else's reality. You can change it to be whatever it is you want to be, but it's going to take some work. It's going to take the understanding, the awareness of what we're talking about here.
yeah.
And it can happen. Like, there's so many people out there. There's people, written best-selling books and talking about their stories and where they started at and where they are today. People with drug addictions and alcoholism and abuse in their lives and things like that. They've gone on to build incredible businesses,
Hmm.
uh, build incredible relationships. It's all possible no matter what it is you want, but you have to be open to receiving that information. And your sixth sense, like Napoleon Hill's talking about here, is how you receive. Uh, again, I refer to it as intuition. Some might say it's your third eye, that kind of thing, but it doesn't really matter. Call it whatever you want.
Yeah,
You said hunch. That works, right?
yeah.
Whatever you want.
Gut feel, your gut instinct, whatever. Yeah, um, and that's an important thing. Like, how do you know? People ask, how do you know? It's not super complex. You know what positive feelings, what positive energy is. Like the highest energy that we can feel, highest vibration, whatever is love, right? When you're outpouring of love. But it doesn't have to be full on love. It could be inspiration, hope, enthusiasm, any of those positive emotions. If you're going in a direction or you come to a crossroads and you have to decide, and one instantly makes you feel excited, and then you get scared because of whatever pops into your head. That's your guiding system. If you think initially you feel negative for whatever reason, again, before the thoughts pop in there, it's the very first root emotion you feel. That's your guidance. When you're saying it'll guide you, one way or the other, that's it. If you feel positive about something, move in that direction. If you feel negative, go with your gut instinct, your sixth sense for sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. So he closes out this chapter with faith versus fear. So I thought I'd read that. It's pretty good. Uh, previous chapters have described how to develop faith through autosuggestion, desire, and the subconscious. The next chapter, which is we're going to pick up next week, details instructions for the mastery of fear. Here will be found a full description of the 6 fears, which are the cause of all discouragement, timidity, procrastination, indifference, indecision, and the lack of ambition, self-reliance, initiative, self-control, and enthusiasm. Search yourself carefully as you study these 6 enemies, as they may exist only in your subconscious mind, where their presence will be hard to detect. And that's the thing too, is a lot of times we just keep going through the day and we don't actually realize that we're being led in the wrong direction. Especially if you grew up around it. Like if everybody you know has been going in that same wrong direction, it's really hard to understand it. All you need to do is go a different direction. You're probably going to win. So remember too, as you analyze the 6 ghosts of fear, that they are nothing but ghosts because they exist only in one's mind. Remember also, the ghosts' creation of uncontrolled imagination have caused most of the damage people have done to their own minds. Therefore, ghosts can be as dangerous as they lived and walked on the earth in physical bodies. The ghost of these fears of poverty, which seized the minds of millions of people in 1929, it's the Great Depression, right? Was so real that it caused the worst business depression this country has ever known. Moreover, this particular ghost still frightens some of us out of our wits. I think it's happening now.
Right? It goes in cycles.
Same ghost. Yeah, right? That's that same ghost.
Yep. Yeah.
Any final thoughts as we try to close things up? Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, sorry. I was just saying, I hope everyone understands just how powerful they really are. We don't understand how much creative potential every one of us has. We you, me, a lot of others. I think the biggest thing is to become self-aware that, again, just remember that you're your conscious. You're not that subconscious. Your subconscious is feeding you information, which is fine. But it's up to you to take that, what you've learned in the past, and make it the present. Or if it doesn't serve you, let it go and create your own path, right? That is conscious. When you're creating, when you're emoting, when it's going out of you, that's a good thing, especially when it's positive. If it's negative, chances are it's being fed to you from your past. It's those ghosts that Napoleon Hills is talking about. You do not need to, when you live a conscious life, which just means be conscious of what you're thinking and conscious of what you're doing. If it's a negative thing, let it go. If it's a positive thing, run with it. I mean, that's the bottom line. Again, sounds easy. It's hard in the beginning to get used to it, but it is, as long as you're aware of that and you're on that path, that's great. You guys, everybody can be anything they can really fathom, conceive, believe and achieve, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up, if somebody wants to reach out and say hello to you, Walter, how would be the best way for them to do that?
Either through the Facebook or LinkedIn, or actually, if you get into My Elevate, you can also contact me through there. My Elevate Network, which all of us are part of. Probably the best place, really, because you'll see my programs there, but also
program there,
and Eric's and Karen's and a whole bunch of others.
Some others, and it's growing, keeps growing. And of course, you can come and join us on the Elevate Roundtable on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if somebody wants to reach out, say hello to me, liamjenkins.com is probably the easiest. So we'll be back next week with the very last chapter of Think and Grow Rich on how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. I think this is a really good chapter. So
yeah, it is.
Great seeing you, Walter. Welcome back from Dubai, and we'll see you next week.
Good to be back. Yeah, have a great day, buddy.
We'll see you later. Bye, everyone. We'll